To me, I felt comfortable on my blades. Back in '88, I was playing downtown Toronto for the second time. Again, it was industrial hockey, and we were just an exhibition game. Caught an edge on my blades and put me into the boards head first and broke my neck at the 5-6 level. On to rehab we go for a year. Start a new life. Literally.
Oh, the accident. Which is weird, yeah. Yeah, well, a friend of ours had a really, really huge house out in High Park. I don't know what the name of the street was. And he had made a pool. And every year, July 1st, he had a party. I already had a cab, and this girl was going to stay at my place. She was from out of town. So I gave her my keys, and I said, I'm going to stay for a few more beers. And this girl in the pool was waving at me, Ron, come on in. And I jumped in, and I hit the bottom of the pool. And it happened in a second, like you didn't even, I just dove. And for some reason, my hands were here instead of here. Now, obviously, the alcohol and, everything had an effect on not having my arms in the right place, but it was also just, to me, it seemed like destiny put me down on the edge of the pool. And right away, when the owner came out, he knew, that I had broken my neck because, he checked and I couldn't move nothing. I was just in the water. I guess I started going into shock because I was saying weird things.
From laying on the ice, when I asked the guys, are my legs moving, they said yes. I thought, you guys are lying. I didn't feel my legs move at all. So right then, you got to realize that, no, you've done serious damage here. There's not a thing you can do about it, because if you can't move your legs, there's no way anybody short of God's going to help you.
Well, you know how I found out I was a quad? I knew after a while, the doctor said, you're in for a tough fight, and you sort of, you can't feel nothing to move, so you know something's wrong.
Right.
And the phone rang, the nurse picked it up, and one of the guys from the liquor store, an older guy, he really liked me, so he phoned to see how I was. And I heard her say, well, I'm really not supposed to say things, but he's a quadriplegic. And, I'm lying there, and all of a sudden I looked around, and I realized she was talking about me.
That's the way you found out, eh?
And I never told her. I never told anybody, because I figured she might have got in trouble, right?
So I'm laying on the bitter ice for like 20 minutes, half hour to the attendance guys get there. My face is freezing. Nobody wanted to put anything under my face because there was a bit of blood on the ice from my thumb that was bleeding. They thought it was my head, laying there like this, say, on the ice. So they finally get me. They put the neck brace on the wrong way. It's covering my mouth. I can hardly breathe as it is because you lose all your lung muscles. You lose all the nerves from here down. Actually, a little higher because it was the shock of the break that just shut everything right down. But from there to the trauma unit, first thing I did when I got a doctor that was close enough to hail down, I said, what are the chances of me ever walking again? I really would like to know. My family's coming from out of town. My fiance at the time was coming down, and he didn't want to. He was very apprehensive. He came out and said, it's very, very unlikely you'll ever walk again. So instead of getting all freaked out and bummed out, I thanked him, said that was good of you to put yourself kind of on the line and tell me that. I appreciated it. So I did 4 or 5 hours down in the trauma unit, the emergency trauma unit. When they put the halo on, they got to sink the pins in your head and attach this halo to a rigid frame vest. To put your head in traction for the full 3 months till the bone heals. And within a day, I had 15, 20 friends and family come through to make sure, see if, staring at me, wondering if I'm going to live, if I'm brain dead or whatever, right? I'm trying to console everybody because they're all just looking like death.
And I thought to myself, well, I can't walk. When I go home, I can still get in a wheelchair, go to the washroom, still have sex. I didn't realize your bowels, your bladder, your sex life, all that has changed. I didn't know that right away, but when I knew I was paralyzed, I figured, well, I can't walk, but I can still live. And then you realize all these other things of God.
Oh yeah, the trauma unit, right from the ice laying on the slab to the trauma unit. There 3 days, you're on the ward for a week, and then whisked off to Lyndhurst Rehabilitation Center. Best thing that ever could have happened to me under the circumstances.
Basically, when you go to Lyndhurst, the main thing going there for is to learn how to do a few things, but it's your bowels and bladder stop working for you when you break your neck or your back. So when you go to Lyndhurst, they teach you how to work your bladder, empty your bladder and your bowels. And the main reason you're there is to get that so your body's on a routine.
High quads don't have good balance at all. It's all they can do to sit up in a chair.
Well, if I sit in my bed, I have no balance. I wobble.
No, but I mean higher.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like me, myself. You'll see me hooked all the time because as soon as I go to lift my arms or put any weight out forward, I go to flop over, so I have to kind of get ready to catch myself.
Even me, if I don't go
Well,
like
higher
this.
quads is even worse. So they sit in their chair with their arms out like this on their paddles, and they sit there. If they get really tired, they'll just nod over and fall, and depending on how far their head goes, is how far out of the chair they go.
Sean, he's got really bad spasms, high quad, and he had a spasm and his chair moved, and he fell like this because he's got no balance. He didn't have a strap on, and his face ended up lying on the stove. And he couldn't move, he couldn't do nothing, and he was lying like this on the top of the stove for 4 hours until they came up to feed him. Now, can you imagine if it would have
But
been
it wasn't on at all.
But, you know, that's the whole thing. He had no balance and had a spasm, and he fell forward.
One time we were out there and we seen this big burn mark on the side of his couch. What happened there, Sean? Oh, it took a spasm, and like he fell up against his couch.
He dropped a cigarette.
But as he's flopped forward, he has limited arm use, but still, once you're forward, you have no control of your arms. He's on the joystick, so the chair is just constantly spinning the tire. Remember the burn mark that was on the end of the couch and the wheel, and we wondered how that got there, and he said, oh, I just spasmed out one day, and I was stuck there until the attendant came up for his next booking. I'm complete. He's incomplete.
No, I'm
whether he
complete.
admits it or not. If he was complete, he wouldn't be able to move his hands.
Randy, I got the X-rays. See, I'm a
Well, you're a
C6,
freak
7.
of nature then.
No, what the doctor called me?
What?
He goes, it's like you won the lottery.
Okay.
He goes,
well, that's
you know,
freaky.
out of, you know, like 1 in a million people,
Oh, God.
you know, are lucky enough to have the break the way mine went, through the 6 and out through the 7. You know, because for a while, this hand here, I can't pick things up.
See, a break is one thing, but it's how you damage the cord that's on the inside that really does.
See, I'm complete,
Does
which is
the
a
job.
drag, because incomplete might even gave me, you know, more.
Well, it is neck injury and para is back injury. The further down the spinal column you damage, the distinguishes what you're going to end up with.
They're basically only paralyzed, you know, basically from
Mid-body.
the legs down. They still have the same problems with their bowels and bladder,
Okay.
but they have all their arms, chest, hands, and they whine a lot more than quads.
The most difficult time for me is when I first wake up in the morning. Because of the chronic bladder problems, it makes the muscle spasms so severe in the legs. The bladder, when it gets irritated or sore, causes spasms, and they start from your bladder and they can work up to your chest or work down to your feet.
Oh, it's awful.
And it makes things really prone to stiffening up. So instead of laying flat straight out in the bed, by the time I wake up in the morning,
It's all in the
I'm
fetus position.
off on one side or the other with my knees coming up towards my chest, you know, and so the first thing I got to do is wake right up out of a dead sleep and sit up far enough that I can swing my legs over and then straighten my legs down. And to do that, it activates the spasms even worse, and you just feel it through your abdominal area like it's like a steamroller rolling across you.
See, the future I can handle, the past is what pisses me off at times. Because I used to walk. So when you wake up, it's a lot of work. When you wake